that has joined us. We're up to about 51 folks, and we will be starting in just a moment as we look for our MC to come back, see that that is not happening, and invite Omar from the North Bay Jobs with Justice to join us as our fill-in MC for the moment. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, Leslie. I just want to welcome everyone and thank you for joining us, and especially thank you to those who purchased our delicious, amazing tamales earlier today. I'm going to be talking just very briefly about our interpretation for the evening. We will have Spanish interpretation available. All you need to do is click the interpretation button at the bottom of the screen and then hit the Spanish channel where you will hear our interpreter, Joanna. And then later in the evening, you will hear our interpreter, Jasmine, speaking in that channel. And I'm going to repeat this message in Spanish for those who have not joined the interpretation channel yet. Buenas tardes y muy bienvenidos a todos. Muchísimas gracias por asistir a este evento esta noche y un gran agradecimiento a los que compraron tamales más antes en el tarde. Nomás te estoy dando un aviso que tenemos interpretación para los que ocupan escuchar el programa en español. Tenemos nuestra intérprete Joana y también Jasmine, los cuales van a ser sus intérpretes para esta noche. Y si quieres escuchar el programa en español, vas a hacer clic en el dibujo abajo de tu página que se parece como el mundo y dice interpretación. Vas a hacer clic ahí y luego escoger la opción de Spanish o español. Gracias y voy a pasar el micrófono a... Oh, wait. Me quedo con el micrófono. Oh, voy a pasar el micrófono a Taylor. All right, with that, I'm going to pass it back to Taylor and welcome, Taylor.
Wow, that was stressful. I would say, you know, normally in events like this, when we have a live thing, we always say, put away your cell phones. It was not supposed to cut out immediately as I was supposed to talk. So thank you all for being here. Thank you for supporting the work that Jobs with Justice does. We are grateful that you are here with us celebrating the big victories, the small victories, and everything we do all year long. My name is Taylor Davison. I am a member of NUHW. I work at Santa Rosa Memorial Hospital. I also sit on the executive board. I am known as Chief Rebel Rouser and Pot Stirrer. So I'm really, really excited and very honored to be here this evening. It has been a tumultuous year, to say the very, very least, of 2020. But together, we're building a great coalition of North Bay Jobs with Justice. That means we're fighting for workers' rights. And we're not alone. We're doing this together. We're building our power as a group in the North Bay so that we can prove that we are much stronger when we're all standing and fighting together. You just heard from Omar. He was supposed to be next on our list of things to talk about. And I have a little fun fact about Omar. Omar's favorite color is purple. So if you ever decide to buy Omar a gift, just make sure it's in the color of purple, or maybe a nice aubergine or a merlot. But since Omar's already explained the interpretation process and how to hear it in English or Spanish, whatever your needs are, right now we would like to introduce Erica Smiley, who is a lover of cats. She loves all animals, but prefers cats over dogs. And she is going to start us off tonight. Erica is the Executive Director of North Bay National Jobs with Justice, broadcasting live on the East Coast. And we are so, so excited to have you here to start off our evening. Thank you.
Good evening, Jobs for Justice family. I'm honored to be able to share some words at this incredibly important gathering and in this critical moment in time. And in fact, I used to laugh when people open their remarks with this critical moment in time. I've even done it over the past couple of years, maybe overused this phrase of how important this moment is. But I think we can all agree that our country is at a dangerous inflection point. So tonight I'm going to speak about democracy. The questions before us in this moment are, will we formally transition into a racially pure authoritarian country, or will we finally step up to meet the challenges of our ancestors to build a powerful, inclusive democracy? President Trump and his team are clearly playing against democracy. They knowingly underplayed the threat of COVID-19, leading to hundreds of thousands of unnecessary deaths in the United States. He then incited violence in several US cities such as Portland, Kenosha, Chicago, Louisville, targeting communities of color who sought retribution for the ongoing murders of Black people, naming them, not their murderers, as terrorists to be eliminated by violent white nationalist groups. And now the administration's unlawfully acting Secretary of DHS, the Department of Homeland Security, has overseen the forced sterilization of immigrant women, Latinx, Jamaican, and many others, immorally detained throughout the country. And of course, they're doing everything they can right now to undermine the majority of people's ability to participate in the electoral process. But the truth is, even before the heightened unemployment, the mass evictions, the wildfires, the political violence, even before the pandemic, things weren't that great. During our country's supposed best of days, the days when the stock market was skyrocketing and 40 million Americans were living in poverty, half of them in deep poverty, struggling to survive on less than $2 a day, while three extremely rich Americans own more wealth than the entire bottom half of the country. In the economy, so many on the right are so anxious to get back to 700 of our fellow Americans die each day because of poverty. That's over 250,000 deaths per year, just from what we accept as the normal cost of doing business in America. When things are working at their supposed best, that's what the situation is. But we will not go back. For those of us who have been fighting for democracy, this is a critical moment to dramatically turn the tide. The screeching engines of our imperfect union are in trouble, and we're way past the point of an oil change. No, it's not a new deal. Rather, it is the completion of a great reconstruction that is our only chance at finally having a strong, multiracial democracy. A healthy democracy is a system in which, as close to all people as possible, the majority, the overwhelming majority, have the ability and mechanisms in place to consult, confer, and collectively govern themselves. Democracy is not just a system of political practices. It must be applied to participation and decision-making in all aspects of our economic lives. While voting, lobbying, and all forms of policy and legal work are important, they're important forms of democratic participation. Collective bargaining, both at work and along the lines of other economic relationships, constitutes democratic practice applied to our economic lives. Without democracy in our economic lives, democracy in our political lives will not work, and vice versa. Without one, the whole system of democracy is compromised. Just to spell this out a little bit more, collective bargaining is fundamental to democracy, and collective bargaining, expanding it, the number of people who can do it, collective bargaining, expanding the ways that we are able to do it, this is the core value of Jobs with Justice, and this is critical because that core value is fundamental to democracy. Collective bargaining at its best is a system through which working people can exercise collective power in a way that directly confronts the owners of capital, and in a way that reclaims portions of that capital back to working people and their communities. It has served as a direct mechanism to fight for a fair return on the labor we put into building, operating, servicing, or moving something. Collective bargaining also allows everyday people to practice democracy, directly engaging in the decisions that impact their lives. Additionally, because of shifts in capital, economic democracy in the 21st century cannot be achieved solely on a framework focused on exclusively on work sites, supported by the legal framework of the National Labor Relations Act. That's part of it. But organizers must also explore more expansive definitions of collective bargaining that adapt to the context of global capitalism and all its features, including addressing the material and cultural needs of the modern worker. This means ultimately changing the very nature of what a union contract covers, broadening what individuals can negotiate over and who they can negotiate with, from their direct boss to the individuals with concentrated power in their sector or in their community or at the top of their supply distribution chain. Company executives sign contracts to formalize a myriad of different economic relationships. Why are workers limited to just one? Workers have a stake in our ability to come together collectively, not only as employees, but also in the other ways that we play a role in the economy, as tenants, as debtors, as homeowners, consumers, and many other ways. And many other of these groups have actually joined together for similar purposes, to directly confront and negotiate with specific forces of capital, corporations, banks, elements of the government, all to ensure dignified lives for themselves and for their families. And some of the same forces of power used in a worksite context are also available to us in these arenas. Simply stated, the power to collectively withhold our participation in any economic relationship in order to force concessions from those who seek to get rich on our backs. Again, this is not meant to be a means to an end, or this is meant to be a means to an end, not an end in itself. See, where I'm from North Carolina. You don't just tell people they have the right to elect a senator, you say you have the right to vote. Likewise, telling people that they have the right to form and join unions actually misses the point. They have to leverage their power to organize and collectively bargain. That's what is the thing that we want to give people the opportunity to step up to. The power to organize and collectively bargain, whatever that needs to look like based on their economic relationship to other stakeholders. Our ancestors were clear on this when they began embarking from various positions on the project of a great reconstruction. Historian Eric Foner elaborates on how reconstruction-related policies sit at the root of many modern-day conflicts in his most recent book, The Second Founding. The early Reconstruction periods were, by many accounts, marked by attempts to build a multiracial American democracy in all aspects of society. The 13th Amendment to the Constitution abolished slavery and all forms of forced labor. The 14th Amendment guaranteed citizenship to those born in the United States, and the 15th Amendment guaranteed the right to vote for Black men. Each included clauses empowering Congress to enforce these provisions to ensure that Reconstruction was not only a specific time period, but also the beginning of an extended historical process, the adjustment of American society to the end of slavery. And many of the gains made by social movements from the 1920s, women's suffrage, New Deal through the 1960s and 70s were anchored in these principles, right? Women's suffrage, the New Deal, the Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act. And these same gains have been targeted by conservative judges and elected officials who have intentionally, systematically rolled them back, many to pre-Civil War interpretations of the Constitution. That is why this moment is so important. That is why we are at an inflection point. See, winning the Civil War did not resolve the biggest threat to a multiracial democracy, right? Like the biggest threat to democracy was preventing the rule of the majority. And those who came after the Great Reconstruction, the so-called redeemers, they wanted to come in and undermine the rule of the majority, to undermine our ability to work and get a fair return on our labor, to undermine our ability to vote, to undermine access to citizenship. That's why today's modern day redeemers are so dangerous. Until we recognize this fundamental tension, that this fundamental moment in history, it's not just as bad as it was under Reagan. It's not just as bad as it was in the 50s and 60s. We don't just need to get back to a New Deal. We need to understand the fundamental tension of building democracy in this country, which goes back to the Civil War and back to the great project of the Great Reconstruction, building a multiracial democracy. Until we understand that, the right will continue to win, because there really is no win-win scenario. It's time to reclaim our country and the vision of so many of our ancestors intended for our future. It's not complicated. Those who exploit the labor of other people are not humanitarian. Those who exploit Black workers and refuse to provide protection from COVID do not actually believe that Black lives matter. Those who defend the rule of a small minority over the majority vote are not populists. Those who carry flags of the Confederacy or deface the US flag with that thin blue line are not patriots. We must free ourselves from legitimizing the system of government these charlatans occupy and pick up where we left off in advancing the ideals of the Great Reconstruction, of building a multiracial democracy. Those honored this evening, and all of you, have had a part in turning the tide, modeling what practices and culture are important to build in a healthy democracy. And I also want to acknowledge and thank Mara for all of her powerful contributions to position North Bay Jobs with Justice in this discussion today. And so I'll end with this. A mentor of mine once told me that if individuals on the farthest outskirts of society don't believe that democracy is real for them, they simply will not fight for it, and the system will crumble. We can see this around the country. Just ask your neighbor or anyone of any political background what they think about our system of governing. People throughout the country have not thought that 20th century institutions have fully helped them participate in a real democracy. Those systems have limited our vote, have taken away good jobs and our ability to form unions, to practice democracy at work, put many of us in jail for life over nonviolent crimes, deported many of us, made a lot of us sick, and killed a great many of us. In 2016, some railed against those 20th century institutions by dangerously electing a right-wing extremist and known criminal businessman to office. Others simply stayed home. This won't get solved in November alone. That's an important step, but it's not the only step. No matter the results of the 2020 election, we must all take the time to imagine a democracy worth fighting for.
You're on mute, Taylor.
I thought I was unmuted. Duh. Smiley, I just want to say thank you for coming and for reminding us that our protection in the workplace is paramount to what we do, and making sure that we're protected so that we can go home and take care of the people that matter most to us. That collective bargaining is a fundamental right that we all should have to make sure that our workplace is protected and that we are safe, and that we as people have the power to really make a change, hopefully starting November 3rd, but continuing the work and showing up every day and fight the fight. So thank you, thank you, thank you for being here. Everybody, please raise a glass for Smiley for showing up and reminding us what we're all fighting for on a daily basis. And now we're gonna have a small video, a short video about some of our honoring our essential workers that actually do the work every day.
Trabajador, trabajadora, trabajador, trabajadora, trabajador. Trabajadora, trabajador, trabajadora, trabajador. Este son va dedicado
coffee cup, caffeinated just enough. Stretch and send a prayer up for your kids and family to be safe, be strong, and be healthy. And one day that they be set free. But right now, you got a whole house of mouths to feed. Time is really running thin. Can you fit a breakfast in? Lucky if you see your kids. Deeper, take this moment in. Out the door and on your way. Off you go another day. Gotta be on time today and update that resume. Cause this recession is a test. They're making cuts. Now they want more for less. If you start to feel that extra stress, just do your best and leave the rest. Our ancestors did it too. Somehow they all made it through. Something that we all must do. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive. You'll make it too. And in case nobody told you on your job today, and in case they didn't tell you on your job today, Las Cafeteras would like to say thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow. Isn't it amazing to see all the faces of the people we work with and that we stand with and we fight with? And remembering the people that are behind the scenes that don't get the recognition that they deserve. Because we choose to fight for them, they choose to fight for us, and we stand shoulder to shoulder regardless of the industry that we're in. It's really important that we remember we're a family, we're a coalition, and we're fighting this together. So one of the things that's really important is that we get people who are in places and have political power that can really support the work that we're doing and speak for us in the venues that actually make the policies and the changes. And our keynote speaker this evening is a phenomenal woman. She's referred to as the Black Widow of legislation, California legislation. And you know, some people think of a Black widow as a bad thing. And I look at it as a woman who is in charge and taking charge, who is no longer willing to just stand and take what is being handed to her, but forces everyone else to take notice and stand up. We have the incredible Lorena Gonzalez, State Assembly member representing San Diego County. She's a labor leader, a mother, a wife, a trailblazer. And if everything goes right, 2022's Secretary of State. She was elected in 2013 in Southern California. She is the first Latino chair of the Appropriations Committee and the head of the California Latino Coalition Legislative Caucus. She is a woman and a leader that puts first the needs of her community in which she was elected to represent. So please, everybody, welcome Lorena Gonzalez to our event this evening.
Thank you. Thank you, Taylor. And thank you to the entire North Bay Jobs for Justice. It's such an honor to be here. I got to meet some of the women who are going to be honored later, the ALMAS, and it really is always a reminder of why I do what I do. So just so you understand where I come from and why it is that I'm in elected office, I'll give you just a short understanding, because it's where you come from that often really dictates where you're going. I was born in North San Diego County in a small, in Oceanside, if anybody's heard of that. But my mother raised me and my brothers right next door to Oceanside in a community called Vista. It wasn't the friendliest community. My mother, for most of my life, was a single mom. My father had come here from Mexico. He was a farm worker when he first got here. And as I often say, he came with papers. They just may or may not have been his own. And my parents got divorced when I was very, very young. So it was my mother who really raised me and my brothers. And she worked as a nurse. She didn't have the opportunity to go to college, but she went to community college to get a degree, or not a degree, a certification to work as a nurse. And I watched her in awe. She worked never a 40-hour week. She worked 60, 70 hours a week because it was really important for her to allow us to have a house, to have everything we needed, not everything we wanted, and to be able to sustain for her children. And I thought about how little she asked for in watching her work. She would give everything to her patients, to her job. She worked on Thanksgiving and on Christmas. She often would tell us she was working on Thanksgiving so she could pay for us to have something on Christmas. And she always reminded us that as hard as things sometimes were, that there were always people who had it harder. And so I watched as she worked and she worked and she worked and asked for so little. And all I could think is the one time, the second time, and the third time when she asked for something, and that was a union in her job, she got denied. She not only got denied, she kind of got moved around and shifted because of it. She finally did get a union after working for 40 years in her job as a nurse, and they organized the workplace. And she was retiring at the time, but it meant so much to her. So my kind of introduction to the labor movement wasn't one which I had parents who were in a union. In fact, I had parents who were denied a union. And I think in a way that set up what would become my life's mission. And that was to make sure workers are respected and to make sure that workers had a voice on the job and could collectively bargain and could determine what was best in their livelihood. So I went away to school and I came back to San Diego, and I did become a labor leader. First, I was a political director for the San Diego and Imperial Counties Labor Council. I went on, I am a Teamster, if there's any Teamsters in the house. I went on to become the elected head of the Labor Council. And I loved what I did because every day I worked for people like my mom, right? Every single day, watching workers fight to gain recognition at work, watching them fight to lead what they knew was for their future, for their children. And it was deeply satisfying. But there was one thing that wasn't so satisfying, and maybe some of you can relate. We would ask our members to come, call, phone bank, walk precincts every election cycle. We would bring in candidates who were running for office, who would say all the right things. They would talk about how much they cared about working families, what they would do when they got elected, and how much the union movement meant to them. And we'd convince our member leaders to come out and after putting in a hard day, working more for free to get these people elected. And invariably, some of them would go off and seem to forget everything that they had said. And we'd say, hey, but you said you would be with us. And they'd say, well, you don't really understand. It's very hard. It's very hard. There are a lot of pressures. There's a lot of things we have to consider. And I think after the 2012 election, when we had done very good in basically electing a lot of Democrats in San Diego, I said, I'm never going to be satisfied unless I have an elected official who I know every single day wakes up and says, what can I do for workers? How can I help workers better their lives? Because you know what? There are plenty of elected officials who wake up every day thinking what they can do for big business. And there are plenty of elected officials who wake up every day and think about what they can do for the insurance industry or for hospitals or for, you know, whatever it is that drives them. But I'd look around and not see the person who was singularly focused on people who work for a living. And so I decided to run for office because I knew I would wake up every day the same way I have every day of my life, thinking, what can we do to make life better for the people, the moms in the world. My mom, who passed away when I started the Labor Council, but you know, the women and men who just want to do what's best for their family, and they put in so much and they're not asking for much, but they deserve so much more. So it's been a fun ride, I have to say. I haven't been disappointed with myself. I do think I wake up every day and still fight for workers. But this year's been kind of interesting, right? We did not expect COVID. Who knew we would have to have a global pandemic for people to realize that workers were essential? I mean, this term, essential workers, right? I was like, oh yeah, I'm here for it. Workers have always been essential. And seeing some of the things unfold, though, really re-emphasized the work all of us do. Because what we saw is, although so many workers put their lives on the line to go out and make sure, you know, we were fed, we were taken care of, our children were taken care of, that all those workers were putting their lives on the line, not all with equal benefits, not all with paid sick days, not all with workers' compensation. Some of them didn't have a voice on the job. And so even now we're seeing the disparities in who was affected at work under COVID and how badly that they, you know, anybody could contract it, yes. But those who had a union and a voice on the job ended up in a far better place than those who did not. And so we jumped in immediately and we said, what can we do this year for workers? Because a lot of people wanted to say, this isn't the year to do things, right? This is the year, you know, maybe we have some wildfire legislation and maybe we have some healthcare stuff around COVID. And we said, no, this is the year you take care of essential workers. And I have to say, it was a mixed bag. We worked very hard to put a number of bills in front of the governor, and some of them got signed, and we got a little bit more protection. But I do have to say something, and when I think about my mom, and I often do, and I think about the work in particular that Latinas do, that so often goes unseen. The work that we were fighting for this year, our domestic workers, having safety on the job, like everybody else, our garment workers who have been unorganized and don't even get a minimum wage, our hotel workers who were 5 times more likely to lose their job and don't know that they'll be rehired when things get back to normal. And we said, we've got to bang the drum. This is our community. And by the way, a community that has been adversely affected by COVID at home because of our living conditions, because of our comorbidities, because we've lacked healthcare at the same standards, because we live in more dense situations, because we live with multi-families in one household. All of those things were combining to make the coronavirus hit our community the most. And yet our workforce and so many of our workers, and it's not just Latinas, but I have a new initiative I'm working on, and so I'm going to talk about Latinas every time I get the chance. But that was a great part of what was missed. And what we saw was, although the governor did talk about workers sometimes and talked a lot about businesses, that when it came down to it, we weren't at the same level. He didn't quite recognize the needs that we were putting forward, which weren't legislative needs. I always try to say, this isn't my bill, right? This is the workers' bill. The domestic workers' bill was brought to us by the domestic workers. I worked with Maria Elena Durazo on that bill as the joint author, but it was the workers' bill. The garment workers' bill, which also I did with Maria Elena Durazo, we didn't even get to take up because time ran out. Time runs out when you're working on behalf of workers who don't have a voice. The hotel workers bill was OSHA Calra, and Marilena and I were both co-authors of that one. That wasn't our bill. That was these workers who were sitting home, and they had been home since March, and they're watching these hotels come back to life and be hiring other people at cheaper rates to bust the union sometimes, to get rid of senior workers, basically more senior workers who had a stable career in the industry. And yet we weren't able this time to show why in an essential worker mentality, we've got to protect those essential workers. So we have a lot of work to do. And sometimes we think, we get so focused on the national level that we think, well, we just got to replace Trump, right? Well, I mean, I know it's nonprofit, right? But yeah, we sit and say, we got to vote, we got to replace Trump. Well, we're doing pretty good in California. We've got super majority Democratic legislature. We've got a governor who's a Democrat. And no matter what we would do with Trump, we still got our bills vetoed this year. So we got some work to do at home too. And we've got some organizing to do right here. And we've got some workers that we need people to see. You know, I am so tired of having to tell people that just because you go by an office late at night and there's some lights on, the workers aren't at home. There's workers in that building. And there's workers in this building that we don't have to look at. And so we often don't think about the conditions under which they're working. We don't think about the janitor. We don't think about the garment worker who's sewing our mask that we all got all of a sudden. We're not thinking about the people who are taking care of our children in our home, or taking care of our parents, or, you know, washing up after us in our own homes, because we don't have to think of them that way. Same way we haven't had to think about our farm workers and our workers who are in the meat packing industry, but those times are over. We deem them essential. They're essential workers. I didn't say that. I mean, we've always said that. The governor said they're essential workers. So we got to come back and remind them, what do you do for essential workers? What do? You treat them with some dignity and respect. You let them tell you what they need. You engage them in the process. So together, I think we can do that. And I think we have an exciting time ahead of us, because when you realize so starkly that we have so much work to do right here, not just at the national level, not just in some big fight over who's in that White House, because I guarantee you, both sides, unfortunately, aren't doing enough to see our workers. So I am so grateful that Jobs for Justice does see those workers, that they fight every day, they show up, and they honor workers like they're doing today. I want to let you know, especially these wonderful women who are being honored today, I will forever walk with you, shoulder to shoulder. I'll let you lead me, and I will find every way we can to make sure people follow. I am so proud of the work you did this year in highlighting domestic workers and garment workers and hotel workers, in highlighting nurses, in highlighting janitors, the work we've done over the last few years, but we got a lot of work to do. And I'm excited to work with you on that. It's time we really make essential workers essential and make them respected. So thank you for coming. Please donate to great organizations like Jobs for Justice, who honor the true work that's done, the hard work that's done. I get to just speak on their behalf and inside the Capitol, but really the most important thing is I try to listen when I'm not in the Capitol. So thank you for the work you did, and thank you for inviting me here today.
Thank you, Lorena. You are always such a wonderful voice for the grassroots movement, for the workers, for the people that are unseen, and to have somebody like you on our side representing us in the state assembly, speaking on behalf of the janitors and the housekeepers and the people that do all the stuff unseen behind the scenes. You are a phenomenal ally, and we are grateful to have you on our side. So thank you very, very much for taking time here and being here with us and continuing the fight. And we will stand with you whenever you need us. So thank you to Lorena Gonzalez for being here with us. And now we get to move on to the fun stuff, the awards, and the reason that we're all here. First, I'm going to introduce our very own Mara Ventura, who is here to give the very first award. And little fun fact about Mara, her favorite animal are sloths. So let's welcome her. And
thanks, Taylor. As Taylor said, I'm Mara Ventura. I'm our current executive director of North Bay Jobs with Justice. I was crying at the end of Lorena Gonzalez's speech. Thank you so much again, Assemblywoman Gonzalez, for being with us tonight, and just for the years of work and the amazing things that you have done and will continue to do in the future, and for just being such an important leader. Thank you. I have the distinct pleasure of introducing tonight's first award, which is such an honor. I've never done this, and I love it. And it's my 4th awards here with North Bay Jobs with Justice. And excited that our first award will be to ALMAS, the Alianza de Mujeres Activas y Solidarias, or in English, the Women's Action and Solidarity Alliance. To call these women powerful is an understatement. These women warrior workers hold it down for their families, they hold it down in our communities, and then still make the time and give the energy to show up with one another all across the state to build power and pass legislation that raises standards for domestic workers everywhere. The first time I met the domestic workers of ALMAS was my first month here on the job at the 2017 Women's March, which some of you also met me there for the first time. They held their banner proud and marched through the streets demanding justice. They haven't stopped since I met them that day, and they do not plan to. Since then, I have seen the ALMAS workers at the state capitol speaking on the steps, calling on legislators to be accountable. I've seen them gathering with domestic workers across the state, making campaign strategies and teaching each other how to organize even better. And I've seen them here in our community, in solidarity with Black people, with immigrants in detention centers, with victims of police violence, and with every other worker who has ever picketed or gone on strike. So when I say it's my honor, it's really a complete honor to give tonight's first award to the women who truly exemplify what workers rising to lead a movement really means. So please, as Taylor says, raise a glass, put your hands together for Socorro Diaz and the workers of ALMAS.
Buenas noches, buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Socorro Díaz. Soy miembro de ALMAS, la Alianza Laboral de Mujeres Unidas, Activas del Centro Laboral de Grayton.
Good evening. My name is Socorro Diaz. I am the member of ALMAS with the Grayton Day Labor Center, which stands for Women's Labor and Solidarity Alliance.
Primeramente, quiero agradecer al Creador por permitirme llegar hasta este momento de mi vida y también a Trabajos con Justicia del Norte de la Bahía por tenernos acá esta noche y a todas las personas que están apoyando.
Before anything else, I would like to thank the Creator for allowing me to get to this point in my life, and to all the workers at North Bay Jobs with Justice for having us here this evening, and to all of the people who are supporting me and everyone in this movement.
Es un honor, un gran honor aceptar este premio en nombre de todas las valientes trabajadoras de ALMAS. Somos las trabajadoras que hacemos posible el resto de los trabajos, las limpiadoras de casas, las niñeras, las cuidadoras. Somos siempre y hemos sido trabajadoras esenciales.
It is my great honor to accept this prize in the name of all of the brave and amazing workers that work in housekeeping and work with the ALMAS program. We are workers. Oh, sorry, I was jumping ahead. I want to also thank all of my fellow workers who are housekeepers, babysitters, and do elder care, and so much more. We have been and always will be essential workers.
Quiero compartir cómo ha sido mi trayecto en ALMAS y lo que representa para mí y mis compañeras. La mayoría somos trabajadoras domésticas, jornaleras, que llegamos a este país con una maleta muy grande de metas e ilusiones. en las cuales algunas se han cumplido, otras se han quedado en sueños solamente.
I would like to share with you all tonight my path with ALMAS and what it represents for me and my fellow workers. Most of us are domestic workers and day laborers who have gotten to this country with only a bag of luggage that is huge and heavy, filled with goals and dreams and aspirations, of which some have been accomplished and others have only stayed dreams.
Escuché de ALMAS por mi esposo. Él me contaba de un lugar donde ayudaban a buscar trabajo a los jornaleros. Les compartían información importante, contaban con una clínica de salud y un día le pregunté si también participaban mujeres. Me contestó sí. Y desde ese momento me interesó en buscar el centro laboral de Grayton y me integré al grupo de mujeres.
How I learned about ALMAS was through my husband. He told me about a place where they helped people find work, especially those who were day workers, day laborers. They shared information that was important with us. And they had a clinic, a health clinic that we could use. One day, when I went to the center, I asked them if they also had let women participate. They told me yes. And from that moment on, I've always looked for work through Grayton Day Labor Center, and I joined the group for women.
Me ha encantado ser parte de esto. Trabajando unidas hemos visto las necesidades que tenemos como trabajadoras inmigrantes. ALMAS me ha regalado muchas cosas buenas. Ha sido como una escuela para mí. Es un lugar donde he podido enfrentar mis miedos y aprender a tomar medidas para defender a mi familia y mi comunidad.
It has been my great pleasure to be a part of this. Working together with my fellow workers, we've seen the needs in our community and that we have as immigrant workers. ALMAS has given me so many good things in my life. It's been like a school for me. It's been a place where I've been able to face my fears and learn to take measures to defend my family and my community.
A través de la educación política, el desarrollo del liderazgo y el apoyo mutuo, ALMAS ha llenado sus miembros a la vanguardia del cambio político en el condado de Sonoma, el estado de California y este país. Educamos, organizamos, marchamos, ganamos campañas que acaban con el legado histórico de la esclavitud que excluye a las trabajadoras del hogar y a los estándares laborales de las protecciones de seguridad básicos.
Through the political education provided to me, the development of leadership, the mutual aid, ALMAS has taken its members to become the vanguard of political change in the county of Sonoma, the state of California, and this country. We teach others, we teach ourselves, we organize, we march, and we win campaigns to move closer towards ending the history of slavery that's excluded domestic workers from having better labor standards and from basic protections.
Quiero compartir que las miembros de ALMAS rompieron el esquema de la mujer latina de seguir sujeta al esposo, a cuidar hijos y pasar horas enfrente de una televisión viendo novelas y esperando que el marido mantenga la familia. No, las mujeres de ALMAS han llegado más allá. Trabajamos y luchamos por la dignidad del trabajador y para hacer real nuestros derechos.
I'd like to share how the members of ALMAS have breaking the traditional gender roles of the women, the Latina women, to be a subject of their husbands and only take care of children and spend their time only in front of a television watching telenovelas and waiting for the husband to maintain the family. No, the women of ALMAS have gotten much, much further than this. We work for and fight for the dignity of the workers to make real our rights.
En el 2016, como organización, así, ancla de la Coalición de Trabajadoras Domésticas de California, ALMAS ayudó a liderar la lucha para ganar la Carta de Derechos de las Trabajadoras del Hogar en California. Ganamos protecciones de horas extras para las cuidadoras.
In 2016, as an organization key to the domestic workers of California, the Coalition of Domestic Workers of California, ALMAS has helped lead the fight to win the Workers' Bill of Rights in California for domestic workers. We've won protections for, we've also won protections for overtime for our caretakers.
En el 2019 logramos conseguir el programa de educación y alcance de las trabajadoras del hogar. Este programa de 3 años, por 3 años proporcionará $3 millones en fondos estatales a las organizaciones de trabajadoras domésticas para hacer cumplir las leyes de salarios y horas y a brindar educación y alcance a más de 300,000 trabajadoras domésticas en California. Es el primer programa estatal de este tipo.
In 2019, we won the ability to establish a program that for education and community outreach to housekeepers. This program lasted for 3 years, will last for 3 years, allocating $3 million in state funds to organizations of domestic workers to accomplish work towards fair and just salaries, better hours, and to educate and reach more than 300,000 domestic workers across California. This is the first program of its type in the state.
Este año, a pesar de todos los retos, la pandemia y los incendios, pudimos, como parte de nuestra coalición, empujar el Acta de Salud y Seguridad para todas las trabajadoras, SB 1257, por la legislatura estatal. Esta propuesta de ley hubiera dado protecciones de OSHA a las trabajadoras domésticas y jornaleras.
This year, with all of the different missions we've had and barriers we faced, with the pandemic, with the fires, we've been able to, as part of a coalition, to push for the Safety and Health and Safety Act for all domestic workers, SB 1257, for the state legislature. This proposed legislation would have given protections for Cal OSHA to domestic workers and day laborers alike.
Aunque esta propuesta pasó fácilmente por el Senado y la Asamblea con amplio apoyo de los demócratas y republicanos, el gobernador Newsom vetó nuestra propuesta de ley. Sus acciones demuestran lo poco que se preocupa por las mujeres, por trabajar en los sueldos bajos y por la inmigración, por aquellos que hacen posible todo trabajo, incluso el suyo.
Even though this proposed legislation passed easily in the Senate and the State Assembly with much support from Democrats and Republicans. Governor Newsom vetoed this proposed legislation. His actions demonstrate how little he cares about women, for domestic workers and their low wage work, and for immigrants, and for those who make all of this work possible, including our work at North Bay Jobs with Justice.
Aunque el gobernador vetó nuestra propuesta de ley, nos hicimos aún más fuertes. Hemos expuesto los abusos que sufren las trabajadoras domésticas en los lugares de trabajo y demandamos que ellas merecen protecciones de salud y seguridad en el trabajo, especialmente en estos tiempos de COVID y de los incendios forestales.
Even though the governor vetoed our proposed legislation, we are still stronger. We've exposed the abuses that domestic workers suffer in their workplaces, and we've launched legal demands against those, and we've launched demands to public officials for those who need the protections of health and safety in the workplace, especially in these times of COVID and forest fires.
En el 2021, regresamos a Sacramento más fuertes y más unidas para seguir luchando para nuestros derechos.
In 2021, we will return to Sacramento more strong and more united to continue fighting for our rights.
Nuestro deseo es que crezca más grande nuestro grupo de almas porque necesitamos seguir demandando la justicia para nuestra gente.
Our goal and our desire is that our group continues to grow and that ALMAS needs to continue pursuing justice for our people.
Demandamos que pare el trato inhumano a los niños y a las mujeres encarceladas en las fronteras, en los centros de detención. Demandamos que paren los abusos laborales de nuestro pueblo inmigrante. Demandamos la injusticia, demandamos nuestros derechos, demandamos la dignidad y no vamos a parar hasta que lo logremos.
We demand that the inhumane treatment of the children and women incarcerated at the border and in the detention centers stop. We demand that the labor abuses of our immigrant community be stopped. We demand justice and we demand our rights. We demand our dignity and we will not stop until we achieve it.
Levantaremos nuestras voces y lucharemos juntos para poder hacer cambios en las leyes injustas y para defender nuestros derechos en este país de inmigrantes. Y el pueblo unido jamás será vencido. Gracias nuevamente a Trabajos con Justicia, gracias Centro Laboral de Grayton, a mis compañeras de ALMAS, todas somos una y juntas y más fuertes que nunca. Sí se puede. Gracias, gracias, muchas gracias.
We raise our voices, we will fight together to make change to the unjust laws, and we will defend each other and our rights in this nation of immigrants. The community united will never be defeated. Thank you again to Jobs with Justice, the Grayton Day Labor Center, and my friends and coworkers at the ALMAS Group. We are all one, and together we are united and strong. Yes, we can.
Gracias. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much to ALMAS. What a wonderful job they are doing and supporting the workers and making sure that they have a voice. Just so everybody knows, we're a few minutes over, so please bear with us. We're going to move on to our next award. And to give out this next award will be Janine Freeman. And fun fact about Janine Freeman, the very first time she tried to cook it as an adult, she invited friends over and made spaghetti. And she burned the spaghetti, so her friends came over and ended up having toast and salad. So I hope your cooking skills have gotten better. And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Yes, my cooking skills are a little bit better. I don't burn spaghetti anymore. That was quite a talent to burn that. My name is Janine. I am a registered nurse at Kaiser in Santa Rosa. I work on the COVID floor and still work on the COVID floor, but at the beginning of the pandemic, we were not given N95 masks or proper PPE. We brought our own. We faced some retaliation for bringing our own masks, got a lot of pushback from our management, and finally were able to wear our own N95s, but we were not provided N95s with Kaiser. It was a very frustrating and disheartening experience, and several of us nurses worked with HPs, the healthcare professionals for equality and community empowerment, to give some pushback to get the proper gear for COVID patients and suspected COVID patients. HPs worked really hard with us. They also worked with other healthcare organizations throughout Sonoma County because we were not the only ones with this problem. But they stood by our side, held our hands literally and figuratively while we fought this journey. They held press conferences for us with national media in attendance. They did letter writing campaigns, listened to us when we were really discouraged and just felt like giving up. It was a trying time and made worse by the fact that we did not feel supported by our leadership at Kaiser, and I know other nurses at other facilities felt the same way. But through their advocacy and through their help, it really shined a light on the situation that was going on in a lot of different healthcare facilities throughout the county. And we are receiving better PPE now. We're starting to get the right gear. And a lot of that is because of HP's advocacy for us. And it's been a blessing to be able to stand side by side with these people. And so at this point now, when I go to work, I feel protected because of that advocacy. I did find out late this afternoon that Kaiser is being fined for not treating COVID as an airborne illness. So I think they are going to be in the news a little bit more, which feels really good. I mean, I want everybody to be protected. I didn't want to have to fight for that, but we are getting protected. And it's because HP is an amazing organization. I love that I'm reading this from the website because I love it so much. They believe that health is a human right, that all humans should be treated with dignity and respect. They do support the health and welfare of our entire community. And it is my privilege, my honor to be able to present this year's Community Rising Award to healthcare professionals for equality and community empowerment, HPs.
Hi there, everybody. Thank you, Janine, so much. You did and continue to do so much to protect your colleagues and your patients, and we just really thank you for your courage, your persistence, and we have so much respect for you, the nurses at Kaiser and throughout the county. Thank you to JWJ for this award. I am here with my colleagues on this panel as well, Terry Winter, Pana Lassi, Courtney Milroy, and Jenny Fish. For HPs, this award is really humbling because there was no hesitation when we responded to the stories of Janine and her colleagues. However, we also acknowledge the difficulties we have had in continuing to support our fellow healthcare workers during this pandemic. Attempting to raise awareness about the lack of PPE at hospitals and clinics was a daunting task. One that we actually have also felt like not much success in, unfortunately. I think there are a lot of clinics and places that are still having difficulties. So many of you here tonight already know the dynamics of healthcare administrators and workers, one that doesn't prioritize patients or worker safety. And this pandemic has really highlighted this unfortunate dynamic for several of us in HPs. Many of us are physicians or workers that have never been a part of a union or a coalition, and that disconnect between what is so obviously necessary to protect workers and patients against COVID-19 and how administrators actually respond was so immense. The disconnection is so immense. And it just added yet another layer of disillusionment, unfortunate for us in our healthcare system. To this day, hospital and clinic staff do not have adequate PPE. In some places, there is no accountability. CEOs and public health officials continue to ignore it. To this day, healthcare workers are being asked to return to work from quarantine or isolation when it's not safe to do so yet. And to this day, we in HPs are still having to kick and scream when we talk to CEOs and public health officials about the fact that we need to treat this pandemic differently, that we need to use on the ground healthcare workers to be able to make decisions, that they need to be leading this way in this pandemic. In addition to beyond pandemic. But similarly, in a global pandemic, a public health issue necessitates the collaboration between health and medical institutions and community. And we don't have a cure for COVID-19. So we rely on community interventions. We rely on the voices of community leaders to understand and teach us what are the best approaches to prevention and containment. And this is something that HPs values immensely, especially with our relationship with JWJ. And I'd just like my colleague, Dr. Jenny Fish, to extend that important value from us. Jenny Fish.
Thanks, Tony. I'll just say that historically, physicians and health professionals as a whole have not engaged in social justice efforts at the grassroots level. And a lot of times that is because of these like professional expectations of remaining impartial observers. HBs began 4 years ago because we knew that this could no longer be the case, that our voices could no longer remain silent, complicit, or complacent. Every day in our clinics and in our hospitals, we bear witness to how health itself lies at the intersection of all of these issues that all of us here care about and that we're all fighting for. Public health, racial justice, environmental justice, rights of immigrant, LGBTQ, and disabled communities, education, criminal justice, housing rights, food security, and livable wages. We witness every day how threats to all of these affect the health of individuals, of families, and of our community as a whole. So knowing when HP started, knowing that we were young in our organized advocacy, we really looked to other local organizations who are doing on the ground work, doing amazing work. And we really prioritized listening to the issues that they're working on and finding ways that we could elevate and add our voices to their efforts. In doing so, we found a little bit of our own voice and our own footing to basically translate what we see in the medical world, in our medical work, to more visible audience. And we really truly learned the power and meaning of working in solidarity with the community. We cannot express enough of our gratitude, right, for the guidance of North Bay Jobs with Justice and other organizations like ALMAS, the Great and Day Labor Center, Comité Vida, NUHW, and others. We so deeply appreciate your guidance and your teaching and your leading and really your patience with us. We hope that you can all continue to look at HPs as allies in the fights that you're all fighting and that we're fighting together, the fights for worker safety, livable wages, affordable housing, and for environmental, food, and racial justice. The health of our community truly depends on fighting for each of those and for all of us standing together in solidarity. So thank you all so very much for this, and it is a great honor.
Thank you, Tony and Jenny, for speaking on behalf of HPs and HPs in general. Thank you so much for being our allies in the fight, standing on the front lines with us, and also picking up the slack where unfortunately these multi-million-dollar companies continue to fail their frontline workers, and making sure that we're all fighting the fight and continue to do good work every day. So Right now, I am super, super excited. I get to present an award. And I get to present an award to a friend of mine and an ally and somebody who came on as a shop steward not that long ago and has overcome so many of her own personal fears about retaliation and a hostile work environment. And she's exactly what the labor movement is all about. She is somebody who took her own pain and took her own suffering and used her voice to stand up for the people and the coworkers that are around her that are too scared to speak. So it is with great honor and great pride that I get to present this next award to Carmen Amavisca.
Thank you. I just want to say thank you. It was very, very hard to stand up at first because I was so scared of so much retaliation that they're constantly have. But I kept going because of my coworkers. I kept seeing it being done constantly to them, and a lot of them are older, and I just couldn't stand seeing them cry, seeing them upset, seeing them scared like how they were. And that's like, my coworkers are like my family, and every single one of them, they mean so much to me, and I would not be fighting as hard as I do without them. And thank you so much. It's an honor. Thank you guys.
I will just say, for personal experience, watching Carmen speak, every time she gets stronger, every time she gets braver, and every single time she makes me a little bit more proud to stand with her and to call her a friend and a coworker. So thank you for all that you do and setting example for others around you.
Thank you.
Next, we get to have a very, very special award tonight. I'm going to introduce Bonnie Petty, who is also a cat lover. I'm finding a correlation between labor people and cats, that they like fiercely independent creatures that if you don't like what they're doing, they will slap your hand and do it anyways. So Bonnie is a cat lover. She likes black and white tuxedo cats. She has no room for a gray area, which is exactly what we need within the labor movement. And before Bonnie goes on, I need to just say a few wonderful words about Mara. She is such an example and such a wonderful person for this movement. And I am so grateful to have her as a friend and call her a friend, and have had the pleasure of standing on strike lines and picket lines with her. And it is such an honor to stand with her and do the work that we do and have Jobs with Justice as an ally and a friend within the movement. And she has built such a wonderful community around us, and she doesn't get enough recognition for the job that she does day in and day out. So I don't know, I think there were some technical difficulties with Bonnie, but you know, I can sing and dance if you need me to. It's not going to be great. But, oh, Bonnie, there you are. Yeah. So I'm going to turn it over to Bonnie, and thank you.
Am I on? Hi, everybody. So it was going to be me speaking a little bit, and then we were going to turn it over to a video of our founder, Marty Bennett, because he couldn't be here with us tonight. But we're going to switch this order around just a little bit, and we're going to have Marty first. And the reason for that is that He's pre-recorded, and we have a little slideshow to kind of go along. There's going to be several of us speaking about Mara and saying some things that we need to say to her and about her. And so we're going to put the video on first, so that once that's over, then those of us who will be speaking live, you'll be able to see the slideshow as it runs. So, so just as a way of introduction, this special presentation part is because, as most of you know, Mara is leaving us after 4 incredible years of her leadership. And we, that is the staff and some of the board members, is that we felt we needed some sort of celebration honoring her work. And it would have been really wonderful to have had a separate, really special event just for Mara. But, well, we are in the age of COVID, and it just wasn't going to be in the cards. So sorry about that. So you'll see a little slideshow later, but for right now, we're just going to we're just going to have the video from Marty, and then we can come back to me, and then I will read my part, and then we'll finish up. Thank you.
Everyone, I regret that I can't be with you tonight, given my involvement in Unite Here's electoral work, focusing on the swing states of Nevada, Arizona, and Florida. However, I'm delighted to join you by video, and along with other Jobs with Justice and community leaders, honored and pay tribute to Mara Ventura, who succeeded me as executive director in 2018. Under Mara's leadership, North Bay Jobs with Justice has grown and thrived. And in my remarks, I would like to focus on perhaps the organization's most important achievement under Mara's leadership, and that is the establishment of the Alliance for a Just, Equitable, and Sustainable Recovery, better known as the Alliance for a Just Recovery, or the AJR. Mara's vision and leadership have been essential at every stage in the formation, development, and expansion of the AJR. The AJR was first established as an ad hoc and temporary coalition that focused on labor standards for the cleanup after the 2017 Tubbs fire. Since that time, the AJR has become a permanent and enduring coalition of labor, environmental, faith, immigrant rights, and community-based organizations. The coalition has addressed a wide range of issues to ensure that the long-term challenges of soaring inequality, the deepening climate crisis, and racial and environmental justice are central to the counties and now the state's prolonged recovery and rebuilding process. The AJR's achievements during Mara's tenure as executive director and co-chair of the coalition are considerable, and they include designing and implementing a collective leadership structure that includes leaders from Jobs with Justice, Daily Acts, North Bay Organizing Project, and 350 Sonoma. The new leadership has also initiated an annual retreat to develop the priorities and strategies of the coalition. Second, winning approval for citywide $15 an hour minimum wage laws phased in by 2020 in the cities of Sonoma, Santa Rosa, Novato, and Petaluma. 3, mobilizing and lobbying the city of Santa Rosa in 2018 and 2019 for the extension of the 10% rent caps after both the Tubbs and the Kincaid fires. 4, organizing a 2018 study session with the Santa Rosa City Council and advocacy for the city to adopt building and safety codes that mandate all electric housing in high risk and fire-prone areas of the city. 5th, advocating for the city of Santa Rosa in 2019 to fund a study about the feasibility of a public bank, and to support AB 857, approved by the legislature to create a regulatory framework to allow California to license public banks. 6, opposing new developments in the community separators and burned areas, such as the proposed Sonoma Solstice Luxury Resort on Redwood Highway in northern Santa Rosa's Lark Field and Wickiup area. The Planning Commission unanimously denied that project. As Mara moves on to a new chapter in her life, the AJR is part of the legacy she leaves in our community, and we salute her. I would now like to introduce Christy Lubin, Executive Director of the Grayton Day Labor Center.
Actually, that will come back to me. We're, like I said, we're a little out of order. So I believe, Mara, you have a lovely little package there that was just handed to you. So it's, this is a basket of Sonoma County items, and it's got Sonoma County stuff in there, and of course, a couple bottles of wine. And this is a little thank you from your grateful and very sad staff. So it's just a little something to remember Sonoma County from. I was going to put a California map in there with this big circle around Sonoma County in case you forgot how to find us, but we want to make sure you actually come back to us sometime. So
thank you, Bonnie. Thank you, Omar.
Yeah. So, okay. So now my remarks. This is hard. So Mara, how do I even begin? I will start by saying how amazing it is to me that here I am nearing the end of my working life. I do have intentions of retiring someday, but I've come to this near the end of my working life, and I have had the honor and the pleasure of working with a phenomenal leader. I think I've said to you before that even though you were my boss, you have this incredible knack for making me feel like we are partners in this amazing adventure. This is really your superpower. And that's what I think is the most important gift that you have given to all of us, to me, to our organization, and to our community. Your ability to build bridges, to make everyone feel like they were your partner in an amazing adventure, no matter how difficult the issue. When you march with workers, when you walk picket lines, you walk with those workers, shoulder to shoulder, side by side, and you lead by teaching others how to lead. It's that same superpower, that ability to make everyone want to be your partner in another amazing adventure that really brought North Bay Jobs with Justice to the next level. You've done an outstanding job of building deep relationships with all of our affiliated organizations. You've developed new relationships within the community, and you've added some new affiliate members to our coalition. And you've helped instill in our members a strong sense of ownership in and a commitment to the coalition. The strength of the Jobs with Justice model is in its core belief in the power of community and labor coalitions to affect the lives of workers and their families. And your leadership has never wavered from this ideal, no matter if we were considering campaigns around wage issues, or a proposed luxury hotel complex, or an array of disaster recovery issues. You have remained laser focused on seeing and evaluating every issue or campaign through the lens of how it would improve or worsen the lives of working families. We have fought and won some tough battles, and each time we had to face some new horrendous thing that threatened our lives or our livelihoods or our way of life, you reminded us that our success depended on our ability to unite, to partner up, and to be there for each other. This is a community that will deeply feel your absence, but it's one that sends you and Tony off to a new, amazing adventure with grateful hearts and a lot of love. We will miss you more than you know. And now I'm going to turn it over. I believe we're going now to Christy.
Hi, so I am Christy Lubin and I am the director of the Grayton Day Labor Center, but I'm actually speaking right now on behalf of the Fund for Disaster Relief in Sonoma County. And I'm honored to be here tonight with two of our two partners, Omar Medina and Susan Shaw from the North Bay Organizing Project. So we're here to pay tribute to Mara. Together, the four of us are the founders and steering committee of the Fund for Disaster Relief. Mara, we want to recognize the important contributions you have made to this innovative and revolutionary project that we collectively launched just a few days into the Tubbs fire. With the fire still raging, we mobilized to address the dire circumstances our undocumented immigrant community was experiencing. With little or no Spanish language communication informing non-English speakers where to seek refuge, food, or other forms of support, the immigrant community found itself in its own state of emergency. Fear of ICE kept many undocumented people from the emergency shelters and later the local assistance centers. Confusion around FEMA eligibility and the sharing of data with the Department of Homeland Security kept them from receiving the assistance that most fire victims were eligible for. We called together a meeting where we decided, this is 3 days into the Tubbs fire, on a phone call with Mara, we decided that we would be the FEMA for the undocumented community. And within a few hours, we came together, myself, Susan, Omar, Davin, a couple other people, don't even remember who was there exactly, but we were there. And within a few hours, we were able to do what great organizers do. We had drafted a vision and mission statement and opened up a bank account with $15,000 we had received to support our efforts. Over the next few months, thousands of people applied for relief. You co-led the effort to organize dozens of intake clinics, trained close to 100 community volunteers to process the applications, distribute the funds, and most importantly, help develop the infrastructure for what is now a community institution recognized throughout the country as a best practice model for getting immediate cash relief into the hands of those who need it the most. And I'm going to pass this on to Susan Shaw, Executive Director of the North Bay Organizing Project.
Thank you, Christy, and thank you, everyone. Mara, it seems like we were just wrapping up our Tubbs work when the floods happened along the Russian River. And with the remaining funds we had in our account, we were able to aid 25 undocumented families in Guerneville whose homes were flooded and who lost all their possessions. After a little respite came the Kincaid fires. You headed to the evacuation centers in Petaluma and Marin, where you were able to help coordinate language access, immediate cash aid, motel rooms, medication, diapers, and other urgent needs for families. And you put us all in the car together so that we could regroup and reinvigorate UndocuFund. Then came COVID-19, and once again we met and determined how UndocuFund could best meet the needs of the community. In addition, we began to receive calls from organizations around the country who were starting their own UndocuFunds. They were just multiplying. And between all of us, we provided much needed technical support and advice on the intricacies of establishing and managing this type of fund. Under your leadership, Mara, UndocuFund was able to partner with ISOCare and to provide financial assistance to immigrant workers so they could quarantine and recover without fear of starvation. It has been an honor to do this work with you, and I'm grateful for your passion, compassion, diligence, attention to all the details, and I'm honored and grateful for the collaboration we have together. Omar Medina, coordinator of UndocuFund, is next. And it's a pleasure to introduce you, Omar.
Thank you. I had myself on mute, and start by saying, Mara, you make me smile, and boy, time sure does fly by. It's been over 15 years since we first met as student activists, machistas, while you were a student at the University of Oregon. And to me, it seems like it was just yesterday that we were talking about you applying to work with North Bay Jobs with Justice here in Sonoma County. They made the right choice in hiring you. And I'm so thankful for the hard work you have put in these past few years, fighting for workers, for our local families, and simply for justice. Our community, my community, has benefited from your hard work. And for that, I thank you. Working together to create UndocuFund has been a privilege. You also played that very important role in connecting the many individuals and organizations inspired by our model to start new UndocuFunds all over the country as a response to this pandemic, replicating the work we do in their own communities. Your impact is felt far and wide. One of my favorite things about you is that you don't take BS. You speak up and you stand firm on issues and have no problem calling someone out. I hate to see you go because you're so valuable to our community, but I'm glad to see you standing firm for you and your happiness, moving on to the next journey in your life. El Chuco, that's El Paso for those that don't know, may not know what they have coming, but they are very lucky. From the bottom of my heart, thank you for all your passionate hard work towards making this world a better place. We all wish you the best. Thank you. I love you.
Mara, I'm going to share with everyone here because I think a lot of people who are listening tonight don't really know that in the past 3 years, since October of 2017, that UndocuFund has been able to distribute nearly $10 million to thousands of families in Sonoma County who are just excluded from all of those rights that you fight for and you have led the fight for paid sick leave, for disability, for all of the things that most of us as workers, we take for granted. And a lot of people don't think about the fact that there are people who don't have those privileges, but you saw that, you understood that, and you're not afraid to speak up for those who don't have the voice to speak up. And so I just want to say that there's so much more. I mean, I'm thinking about De Colores and the workplace raids trainings that you developed in response to the ICE raids. I'm thinking about the DIDS, I think, DIDC, Divest from Immigrant Detention Centers, and the campaign to get the County of Sonoma to divest from Wells Fargo. And I mean, the list just goes on, Mara. I just thank you for being a fearless warrior for justice, for dignity, for never being afraid to do and to say what is right, and never, ever, ever leaving any worker behind. And I also want to thank you for being my personal friend. I love you very much. I will miss you, and I have spent more time on the telephone together. I mean, if we could like get paid for every hour we spent on the phone together the past 4 years, we would be retiring right now. We've been on these calls trying to solve every problem under the sun. I'm going to miss your wisdom, your expertise, because you are my teacher. You are way more patient and more diplomatic than I could ever be. And I admire that. I still have not, I'm not practicing it, but I do admire it. And mostly I'm just going to miss my friend who I love dearly, and I'll be seeing you in El Chuco after the pandemic. Mujer. So next up is our beloved Maddie Hirschfield, Political Director of the North Bay Labor Council.
Sorry, I was muted. Hello. Can you all hear me? Okay. So I'm going to try and get through this. A lot of people have said some of the stuff that I was thinking, but anyway, even though we don't actually work for the same organization, Mara's been such an incredible working partner. We joke about how often we speak, and if we don't hear from each other at least once in a day, we start to wonder if the other is okay. The minimum wage campaign was a project of J with J and the Labor Council. It was one of the first all-out efforts we made together. As we worked on this campaign, it became abundantly clear that what a true leader Mara was. She comes at these efforts first with her heart. She has an unbelievable and never failing capacity for empathy. As she talks with everyone from volunteers to elected leaders, she makes it undeniably clear that she's asking them to do what is the right and just thing to do. She lays that groundwork and then she backs it up with data and information. She also manages to slip in how it might be good for those who are opposing it too. That's tricky, that's a tricky thing to do, but somehow she does it. She may not convince everyone in the room, but she will have their attention. And it's clear she stands for justice. When the pandemic hit, Mara and I actually increased the amount of contact we had each day. We must have spoken 5 times a day for at least the first 3 or 4 weeks, planning on doing what we could to help. SoCo United in Crisis was a big undertaking, but it moved forward, having a lot to do with Mara's efforts. Paid sick leave being one of the major undertakings of SoCo United in Crisis, and another J with J Labor Council endeavor, has been successful first in the city of Santa Rosa, and then at the Sonoma County Board of Supervisors. And it's still moving forward into other cities and counties. Mara has a magical way of asking you to do something you know you don't want to do. And before you know it, you're signing on, taking on all kinds of tasks and working with this amazing woman. None of this is to say that Mara doesn't have her detractors. It's hard to do this kind of work and not piss some people off. That's okay with her. It's just part of the job. Hell, Mara's even pissed me off a time or two. But we always work it out. And despite that, it's hard for me to imagine doing this work without her. She's become essential to what it means to me to do this work. Which is an amazing thing to say, considering she was probably in diapers when I started on this path. But she's influenced me in ways that I can't even explain. And the impact she had on me and how I do my job is immeasurable. I'm betting I speak for many when I say that. I've already warned her that I'll still be calling and texting all the time when she's in Texas. I just won't know how to stop. Mara, I wish you and Tony a lifetime of joy, health, and fulfillment. I don't think I even need to wish that for you, because with the talent and passion you possess, you'll create it. The people in El Paso have no idea what's headed their way. They get to see what you do next. Go well, be happy, I love you. And next we'll hear from Omar Paz, North Bay Jobs with Justice lead organizer.
If I'm not mistaken, I think Omar already went.
Wrong Omar.
Omar Paz.
Oh, wrong Omar. Sorry. Too many
It's okay,
Omars on
I
this.
know.
Okay, sorry, my bad.
Oh, you're totally fine. I'm just going to be playing the slideshow in the background because I didn't get to finish it all, and I want people to see everyone else's contributions to it. So I'll let that play. Unfortunately, I didn't get to write my speech, but that's okay by me, because everything always comes directly and better for me when it's on the spot. So first, I wanted to say that I thought that I was going to see a lot more tears from you, because that's what everyone told me was going to happen. And I was crying this whole time listening to everyone talk about you. So yeah, in few words, I want to thank you for everything you have given me in such a short amount of time that has felt like years already, in which I've been able to get to know you better as a colleague, as a boss, and as an inspirational leader who has personally given me what I've been missing in my leader to be a better community leader. So I've already said this many, many times, but one of the reasons, probably the biggest, and if not the only reason that I came to this job was to work under you. And that was a result of all of the different times we crossed paths, where you were always in a mad rush, going from so many meetings to another, and I could tell that you knew how to use your time wisely. And from everything everyone would always tell me about you, you got things done as a result. And the amount of people we have in this county who can do that and also lead with their heart and lead with a passion that so many people before me mentioned, it's a select few, most of whom are in this room right now. But for us to have the opportunity to all be here and celebrate you how you deserve, and to share these memories, and just for me to learn all of the things you've been able to do up until this point in such a short time, gives me a lot of hope, gives me a lot of courage. And through your tough love that you've given me in our weekly check-ins and some of the more difficult moments that I've had in starting a job right when a pandemic hits, and then just before another series of fires hit, I'm nothing short of blessed and honored to have been able to have you for this time. I see great potential in this job, in this role, and in the community that you've built and that I've been able to contribute to myself now. And looking forward for the organization, I'm sure that there were so many things that you've had planned that have been able to get to, because you're just so busy getting so many bigger things done. I just want you to know that I will try my best to honor those commitments, to build on them, and to make sure that, we're filling the huge shoes that you're leaving behind. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for everything you've done for this community, especially as someone who didn't necessarily grow up here and had to go through the culture shock of getting to know the underbelly of Sonoma County and all the twists and turns that the community has for those who are not fighting for justice and who are complacent with the inequities that exist. You've been able to help a lot of the people here become more resilient. You've given us so much more energy and reason to do better and to continue to push ourselves, like Maddie said, into those positions that we know we don't always want to be in. But at the end of the day, continuing forward in my work, just know that your voice will always be there guiding me, among the many that have brought me to this point. So thank you, Mara, for everything. I really hope you celebrate your time off and don't jump into another job too fast. We will miss you, but I'm really excited to hear what you're going to be doing next. Thank you.
How do you follow up something like that? On a personal level, I would just like to say, Mara, thank you for letting me be a part of your tribe and opening a door and allowing me as a new leader within this movement to help me find my voice and inviting me in with open arms. So thank you. And without any further ado, because I don't think there's any words that could describe how important Mara is to every single one of us, and how this evening is a true representation of who she is as a leader, as a person, as an organizer, and as a friend. I'd like to welcome Mara. One name only.
Thank you, Taylor. Wow, I think I just have a lot of adrenaline rushing because it's a fundraiser, and I'm always, people, if you remember me at other fundraisers, I'm the one that's like running around everywhere. So I think I just have a lot of adrenaline. This is so beautiful. I don't have words. That was so, I knew there was people were going to say a few words, and that was it. And that was so much more. And I just love you all. And I did prepare something, so let me just get there or I will cry. So first, I just want to say that it has been an incredible privilege to be on staff for North Bay Jobs with Justice. I wouldn't be here for all of you. I wouldn't be here for all of the mentorship that so many have given me. I appreciate you saying that I teach you, Christy, because I feel like you all teach me so much. And it's just been such an immense pleasure to be here yeah, be in this fight with you, be in this struggle with you. A few things that I wrote were actually also about Bonnie, because I just would be remiss if I left tonight and I didn't recognize who I think is inarguably the glue of this organization, Bonnie Petty. You know, I know you don't like the spotlight, Bonnie, but here it is. This is my parting gift to you. Bonnie, you were there the first day this organization started. You were there with Marty Bennett asking for $500 from the Labor Council to start the Living Wage Coalition in 1999. And you've been the person that's helped turn the Living Wage Coalition and the idea and a vision of being North Bay Jobs with Justice into an actual reality. Our ability to engage members, to get information out to the public in times of crisis, to raise money, to put on very stressful events like tonight, it's all because of you. And I wouldn't be half the executive director, and this organization would not be half the organization it is if it were not for you. Bonnie, you don't treat this organization like a job. You believe fiercely and passionately in our mission and in the labor movement. You bring enthusiasm and excitement in everything you do. I love planning and strategizing and talking with you because you get this huge smile on your face. It lights up our union meetings. It lights up our strike lines and our picket lines. Every worker feels your support. And there isn't a single picket line or strike line I haven't seen you at. And we wouldn't have a workers' rights board if it's not for you. So, and the work that you did to support that. Especially after Matt left. So we're just really lucky to have you. If you all know Bonnie, please remind her how great she is. And just on behalf of everybody in North Bay Jobs with Justice, thank you, Bonnie. And thank you all the steering committee members, our founders who started North Bay Jobs with Justice and are still here and are building. And yes, Maddie, for doing all the things that you don't want to do that I'm like, let's do it. Let's run this campaign. Let's start this project. So thank you all for being there. Okay, so before I leave tonight, speaking to you at our annual awards night for the last time as your executive director, I do have a few words that I want to leave behind. And I'm going to slow down for the interpreters, sorry. For those of you who know me, you know I am a forever optimist. No matter how bad things get, and I think we can all agree things got really bad this year and things might be really bad the week of November 3rd. I still have great hope for our communities. I have this hope for the same reason that I love this annual awards night every year, stress aside, because through the darkness, I see the light that shines from the workers and the people that wake up and work to make this world for the next generation better, and who wake up and keep this labor movement alive. Last night, I heard Dr. Angela Davis speak, and she said, veteran organizers understand that we often don't get to see the fruition of our tireless work. And like everything Dr. Angela Davis says, she's right. More people in the streets this year fighting for Black equality than ever before is the culmination of decades of organizing, particularly the organizing that many of you have been doing here in our community since Andy Lopez was taken. And this is just the beginning. The seeds you sow when you stand up today, when you refuse to accept the conditions laid before you by the current people in charge, are the flowers that will bud and give the future generations hope that change is possible, that their work is not in vain, that the setbacks of a terrible president are not enough to defeat the force of all of us when we fight together and that's sweeping through the world. Tonight, we get to celebrate those flowers, the workers we recognized, the fact that Lorena Gonzalez is an assembly member kicking legislative butt, the fact that Erica Smiley is at the helm of the largest national workers' rights coalition, the fact that people are mobilizing all across the country to defend democracy this November 3rd, the fact that will you defund the police is a question that every candidate has to answer to be considered for office, the fact that words like hazard pay and healthcare for all and white supremacy are dinner table and mainstream concepts now. These are the flowers that we get to celebrate, to fuel us with hope and reminder of why we fight, so that tomorrow we can wake up and get back at it and keep going. So this is what I want to leave with you before I go. Never feel guilty about not being able to do enough. Do what you can, but always do something. Sign the petition and then ask 5 friends to sign too. Make that call to the elected official and then share it on social media. Have the difficult conversations with your family members. And when you can, make donations. Every action you do makes the difference between us quietly accepting unfair conditions and changing systems to ensure they work for us and with us at the table. The final thing that I have tonight is an ask, which I'm sure you all are expecting. Dolores Huerta once shared that she and Cesar would ask every farm worker to pay their dues of $3.50 a month, which was a lot given that farm workers made 50 cents an hour. But they felt that it was important because if it was your commitment to your union, and it meant that you had a stake in your union. You helped to fund it, and that meant that you were a part of it in a way that nobody else was. That always stuck with me because they understood that in order to fight big corporate interests, it always meant pooling whatever resources we had together to organize and win. So tonight I'm asking you to continue to support us. If you haven't yet made a donation, please give. I know many of you made donations already, so thank you. We're gonna put the link in the to donate in the chat box, and for every $100 donation that we receive, you are going to get a gift of a wonderful donated wine from a winery that did not take farm workers into evacuation zones, which is how it should be. And your contributions go a really long way and always have. Your contributions over the last few years helped us hire our first lead organizer and grow to a larger staff. Your contribution helped us build De Colores program that hires immigrant leaders at a true living wage to give Know Your Rights trainings to workers. And your donations are what's going to be the ability to allow us to fight in the next year to come so that we can build stronger worker power in 2021. Please consider making $100 or more gift tonight, and we'll follow up with you with your wine. And for every $100 that you donate, we'll add another bottle of wine for anyone that wants to donate. Lots of hundreds of dollars. We will put it to very good use. And I just want to say thank you. Like, it's just been such an honor. I was a union organizer for however many years and a community organizer, and I saw this job posting. I actually got it sent to me from Gordon Marr down in San Francisco through, I think, the way of Pablo Alvarado, Christy, just the way that our networks have moved each other. And I didn't know what I could do in this organization. I didn't know what we could accomplish. I just knew that I believed things should be done. And I showed up and I met all these incredible leaders around me, like the people that you just heard from, like Omar and Christy and Maddie and Marty and so many more people, everybody in the steering committee of Jobs with Justice and more, everyone across Alliance for Just Recovery. And everybody passionately believed in the same things I did. So we just said, let's do it. Just like Christy Lubin called me and said, hey, a bunch of us want to start it on DocuFund. I said, let's do it. So if you believe passionately, do it, and don't doubt yourself, particularly for women of color out there. You can do it. You can be the leaders. You can be the next executive directors. It can be and should be you. So thank you so much. Thanks, Taylor.
I would also like to just let everybody know that secretly, I think we're all hoping Texas doesn't work out for you, Mara. And just so you know that we will find a job for you locally if it doesn't. But I mean, we want it to work out for you. But if it doesn't, you have a home back here in Sonoma County with us. And also, Larry just sent me a message and he wanted to let everybody know that the first $250 that was raised tonight, he was going to match for the year and making sure that we get money where it needs to be so we can continue the work that we do. I took this, we're coming close, so everyone just kind of bear with me for probably about 5 to 10 more minutes. We're coming to the end. I promise you, this is almost over. You will no longer have to listen to me until next year. You're welcome. In light of the dumpster fire that 2020 has been, I wanted to make sure that we highlighted the successful things that we've done this year as a coalition, as a group, as labor leaders. There are so many wonderful things that we have done this year. So right now I'm going to just list off a couple things that we've done just to remind us that the work that we do matters. And even though we don't always see it to the end, what we're doing is truly affecting and making the lives of other people better. So the victories we've had in 2020 so far, and I might forget some, so please everybody forgive me. The Santa Rosa City Council and the Board of Supervisors voted unanimously for emergency paid sick leave in light of COVID-19. With the help of our labor-friendly leaders and Governor Newsom, we won that campaign statewide. Those are huge. We had a 5-day strike in July for NUHW, which is the largest in the state during the COVID-19. We won a $15 minimum wage in Santa Rosa, Petaluma, and Novato, and we will continue this fight in 2021 and make sure that all of Sonoma County has a $15 minimum wage for every single person that shows up and does their job. We had a workers' rights board that shined the light on the failures of hospitals to care for their frontline workers. ALMAS last month had a rally that called attention to the injustices that are happening along the US border and continue to happen. And we'll continue to shine a light on them because it is an atrocity against human beings that don't deserve it and just want a better life. The Undocu Fund was once again called upon to help support our communities of brothers and sisters that are not able to get assistance through the government or county channels. Huge. It shows us that we are doing the right thing. And when we all stand together and use our talents and gifts, we can change the world. Now let's take that energy and collective action into November 3rd and show everyone that a government needs to serve the people and reflect our values and represent us. So in closing, earlier this year, we lost Alondria Williams, who goes by the name of E. And E was a grassroots leader, a movement builder across the South, Appalachian, US, and the world who encouraged Highland workers in the 21st centuries. E was their guide. E's presence and facilitation and relentless commitment to personal connection catalyze people's relationships and help to dream bigger and commit more deeply. The revolutionary work of education and social change. For young emerging leaders across the country, E was a connector to help them realize that they were not alone, that their struggles and liberation are what bound us all together. For all of us, E pushes every conversation and strategy to pull in other people from the furthest margins to meet and learn from each other. E simplified what felt complex and troubled waters for easy, short answers. E sang and danced, argued and laughed, and sometimes did it all at once. With a commitment that made life zoom by to the present, E invited and even demanded that everyone do the same. E wrote a phenomenal poem called We Are Worthy, and I was going to close with the entire poem, but in light of time and we're running over, I thought I'd just end with the last 10 to 15 stanzas of her poem, but I highly encourage everyone to read it and use it as a mantra to take with you every single day as we go out and continue to do the work that we do. Here's the last of E's poem. You are the visionary. You are the hope. You are our ancestors' dream. You might not ever end up on someone's list somewhere, but you are on the list of someone's heart and mind. And if it's not how you move in the world so people can see by example, you are the embodiment of what we need. Thanks to all that are the embodiment. The embodiment, not the productivity, but the embodiment of radical love, care, and sanctuary. It's time. Embodiment time. Embodiment. Living one's values out loud. Letting everyone live their values out loud. Let us every day live our values out loud. Embodying our values, not the productivity quotient, beyond productivity, past productivity, true embodiment, life. So thank you all for being here. Thank you for donating. Thank you for sharing in this evening. Mara, your presence will be truly, truly missed. And every single one of us that showed up tonight is truly better, more involved, more connected, and feels your love and acceptance and power every single day from this point on. And we will continue to carry you with us as we continue to make this movement in Sonoma County move forward. And let us know if we can ever do anything to help you in Texas. But know that when you leave, your home will always be here with us as well. Thank you.